It started with a normal Sunday call. I was on speaker with my parents, catching up about small things. Work, my apartment, how my car had been acting up again. They sounded distracted, but I didn't think much of it. My mom kept giving short answers. My dad kept sighing like he had better things to do. After a few minutes, Mom said, "All right, we'll talk later, okay?" And I heard the beep of what I thought was the end of the call. But then I realized the line was still open. At first, I almost hung up myself until I heard my mom's voice, clear, casual, like she didn't just hang up on her own child. Living with them was impossible, she said. Always so sensitive, always thinking the world is against them. I don't know how they turned out like that. My stomach twisted. My dad laughed. You know how? It's that dramatic streak. Every small thing turns into a crisis. I told you, once they moved out, we'd finally have peace. Then my sister's voice joined in. They're just lonely. No one wants to live like that, blaming everyone. I told them to grow up, but they never listen. They all laughed. That sound, 3 voices that used to feel like home, suddenly felt like knives. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My mom went on, talking about how things got easier after I left, how she didn't miss the tension. My dad joked about how quiet the house was now, saying, "It's like the air feels lighter." I sat there, phone in hand, feeling something inside me crumble. They thought I was the problem, not misunderstood, not struggling, just unwanted. It wasn't the first time they'd made me feel small, but this time was different. They didn't know I was listening. There was no filter, no pretending. It was the truth, raw and cruel. After a few minutes, my sister asked, "Do you think they'll come for the holidays?" My mom sighed. "I hope not. It's always drama when they're around." That was it. The line went quiet. I hung up slowly, feeling numb. I stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen, realizing maybe they never really saw me as part of the family anymore. That night, I didn't cry. I just sat there replaying the call, word for word, until I finally decided something had to change. This time, I wasn't going to beg for their love. I was going to show them who I could become without it. That night marked something I didn't expect, a quiet rebirth. I woke up the next morning still feeling hollow, but under that numbness was a strange clarity. For the first time in years, I didn't feel desperate to prove myself to them. I felt free. I made coffee and opened my laptop. My job had been stable, but uninspired. I worked remotely in digital marketing, something I'd chosen more out of necessity than passion. But as I stared at the blinking cursor on my screen, I realized I'd been living my entire adult life in reaction to their disappointment. Every decision I'd made was to earn back their approval, to prove I wasn't the failure they saw. That call ended that version of me. Instead of logging into work, I opened a blank document titled Reset. Under that, I wrote one line. If they don't see my worth, I'll build something they can't ignore. And so began a quiet, relentless routine. Days blurred into nights. I poured every ounce of energy into the small YouTube channel I'd started years ago, one that had barely 1,000 subscribers and a handful of views. I'd always been passionate about storytelling, but I never gave it real attention. I started scripting videos about real human experiences, pain, ambition, redemption, the kind of stories I wished my family could understand. At first, it was slow. My videos got maybe 100 views, sometimes less. But I didn't stop. Every time I uploaded, I felt a little stronger, a little more alive. The act of creating gave me purpose again. I spent nights learning editing software, studying trends, and improving my tone. I didn't just want to post. I wanted to connect. And then one night, everything changed. I uploaded a video titled, What It Feels Like to Be the Unwanted Child. It wasn't about them directly, but it was honest, painfully so. I talked about the invisible weight of trying to be loved by people who only saw your flaws. I spoke like I was whispering to every person who'd ever been dismissed by their own family. Within 2 days, it hit 100,000 views. By the end of the week, it passed 1 million. Messages poured in. People from around the world shared their stories about parents who belittled them, families who turned cold, and the pain of always being the difficult one. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. My story wasn't an isolated tragedy. It was a mirror for thousands of others. Sponsors reached out. My channel grew faster than I could process. Within 6 months, I had over 200,000 subscribers and enough income to quit my day job. I invested in better equipment, set up a small studio, and started a series about emotional survival, how to rebuild after being broken by those closest to you. Every milestone felt like healing stitched into progress. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. She hadn't called in almost a year. My first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity won. Her voice was careful, too sweet. "We've been watching your videos," she said. "Your dad and well, we didn't realize how talented you were. You've really made something of yourself." It sounded like praise, but it stung. Not because I didn't want their acknowledgement, but because it came only after success. I kept my tone neutral. "Thanks." She hesitated. "Maybe you could come visit sometime? Your sister is hosting a small dinner soon." I smiled to myself, a sad, knowing smile. "I'll think about it." But I didn't go. I stayed home that weekend, uploading a new video instead. It was titled, "What Happens When You Stop Seeking Validation?" I didn't name names, but I told the story of overhearing people you love reveal what they really think of you, and how that pain can become power if you let it. That video became my biggest yet, 4 million views in a month. Somewhere in that success, I realized forgiveness didn't mean returning. It meant letting go without looking back. My family didn't need to see my growth. I did. I'd spent so many years begging for belonging, but now I understood. Sometimes blood doesn't equal home. Still, a part of me wondered if they ever regretted that call. The answer came unexpectedly a few months later when my sister texted me a photo. It was my parents' living room, and on their TV screen, paused at one of my videos. The caption said, "They watch you every night." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I just turned off my phone, walked out to my balcony, and let the wind hit my face. I didn't need their apology anymore. Their regret was loud enough in their silence. They finally saw me, not as the problem, not as the burden, but as someone who made it without them. And for once, that was enough. Months later, I passed by my parents' house. Through the window, I saw them watching one of my videos, faces soft, eyes heavy with guilt. I didn't knock or wave. I just smiled, walked away, and whispered to myself, "They finally see me." That was the closure I never thought I'd get.